Joining us on the phone now is Sean Hannity. Sean, your thoughts on this day. We have lost Rush Limbaugh. His wife, Catherine, has announced it on his radio show, my friend.
Harris, thanks for having me on. I was just catching the end of Mark's comments and Bill Hemmer's comments, and I'm looking at these pictures, and I heard Catherine today, and the love of his life, very close with his family, as I think you know, Harris, and his wonderful brother David and his sister-in-law Lisa, their kids, Kristen, all, we've all been very close for a long time. There's one thing, and I think Mark was touching on this a lot. There is no talk radio as we know it without Rush Limbaugh. It just doesn't exist. And I'd even make the argument in many ways, there's no Fox News or even some of these other opinionated cable networks. And he literally did something that nobody at the time ever thought was possible. To give some context to this, and it's just heartbreaking. And I watched him since the day, it was over a year ago now, that he announced that he had late stage 4 lung cancer. And he was very honest with his audience, but he said, I don't want to be a cancer patient on radio. I want to talk about the things that he loved. He was, to break it down very simply, God, faith, family, country. And he meant it, and he lived it, and he embodied it. And there are now generations of us that have literally, he's changed the hearts and minds of generations of Americans single-handedly. And when he started in nationally syndicated radio, there were about less than 200 talk radio stations in this country. Now there are like 4,000. He saved the AM band of radio single-handedly. And then as, radio listening shifted and talk radio started moving to the FM band, he saved that too in so many ways. My good friend, another talk show host, Neil Bortz, always said he was Babe Ruth, the Babe Ruth of talk radio. You can never replace Babe Ruth. But, I'd even take it a step further. He was Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Hank Aaron, Derek Jeter, and everyone in between. The thing that I think defines him the most, he loved this country. He was a patriot. He loved his family. He loved his life. I'm looking at these pictures and I see what a life he led, and we should all strive in our pursuits of happiness to mirror what he's done. But just to give you a little bit of texture to this, if you look at syndicated talk radio, which nobody thought you can do in the daytime, Larry King had done it at night, and with syndicated talk radio in the daytime, it was rather new, and then it became an instant phenomenon, and he changed the entire industry. But when he started out, he was looking at a forest, not a single tree was cut down. And every one of us that is on radio today, and frankly on Fox and other places as well, he single-handedly knocked down all of those trees and made it easier by forging that path for the rest of us to follow. And we've all benefited from it. And me personally, my whole career I benefited from the great success and opportunities that he created for others and celebrated. He liked other people's success. And Mark was mentioning he loved the Constitution. He read the Constitution. He loved politics. Mary Matlin once said something about Rush during the Clinton years. I don't know how any of us would have survived without Rush on the radio every day, lifting us up. But it's deeper than that, because he syndicated in 1988. And the first time I ever got behind a radio microphone was around the same time, 1987 or 88. And I remember I was in a radio studio, and somebody told me, you got to hear this guy on the radio. He says he has talent on loan from God, and the snowflakes in that day, if you want to use that term, they were melting that he would say it. But meanwhile, if you look a little deeper into the term, it's really all talent comes from God. It was actually a very humble statement, and everyone took it the wrong way. And with his own mischievous humor and that side of him, it was incredible. Yeah, you wanted to ask me? Go ahead.
Hey, Sean, it's Bill Hemmer.
Hey, Bill.
I'm really sorry for your loss. I know after knowing you for so many years, and Mark Levin as well, just how much you looked up to him and admired him for his, he's just so steadfast in his beliefs, and he had his detractors, and I know you're well aware of that. I want to read you one quote, then I want to ask you one specific question about Rush personally. Here's one of Limbaugh's quote. I did what I've always done. I didn't change. You can call it boring if you want, but the one thing you never have to doubt is who I am and what I believe and what I tell you I believe. I have been Mr. Consistent for the entire 28-plus years I have been hosting this program. I don't think there is a single person who either listened to Limbaugh or chose to demonize him who would disagree with that quote, Sean.
Okay.
Sean, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still with you.
No
look,
problem.
You know, look, he didn't change. And if you look at the conservatism, I always say now, people ask me my politics, I say I'm a Reagan, make America great, America first conservatism. Conservatism, I mean, it's often defined in every election. If you're a conservative, you're a racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic. You want dirty air and water and all this nonsense. No, we want liberty. We want freedom, lower taxes, safe cities and towns, good schools, good choice, secure borders, energy independence, peace through strength, free and fair trade, and we like our Second Amendment rights. Yeah, Rush is 1,000% right. He stayed consistent. But what he did too, Bill, and this is the greatness of Rush. Rush had a genius that all of us just could envy, because he would give you a take on whatever the issues of the day were that you never thought of yourself, but you always wish you did. And that was the genius and the magic, with the tongue in the cheek and the humor and talent on loan from God and the way he would engage people. You know, I remember back in my days as a local host in Atlanta, and I'd go to these Rush rooms for lunch. There'd be hundreds and hundreds of people, Rush blaring through the restaurant, and we just walk around and say hello to people and have fun. But no, it was a precursor. Conservatism, we just saw it, I believe, with Donald Trump. You know, when those principles are put in play and they work, lower taxes, less regulation, etc. All of those principles, you know, create economic activity, and he believed it with a passion. He loved American greatness. He loved our Constitution. He believed in freedom. He believed in liberty. He believed in the individual. He always taught his audience, and I learned from him, you know, it's not a zero-sum game in this life, and that collectively we want to have a rising tide that lifts all boats. I will tell you, there's never been anybody like this man. And on a personal level, I know stories. I'd probably get in trouble of his generosity if I told them, because he never wanted people to know. But I knew. And that side of him, you know, we see it once a year. He raised tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars for the Leukemia Society in the course of his life, and defeating that. And it's just it's a shock to the system. I can't really imagine the next political battle without him.
Yeah, because, you know, he would agree with that whole generosity line, Sean, if he were with us today, and he loved to share it too. At his wedding with Catherine in Palm Beach, I think, frankly, he got a thrill out of the fact that he can entertain so many of his friends and family members. And
I was there. It was the greatest wedding I've ever been to in my life.
I was there as well. He hired Elton John because Catherine wanted him, because one of Catherine's parents was struggling with illness, and they were being treated in Hawaii, and Rush had flown out there, and he came to get to know Elton John. And you think about an odd couple like that. Limbaugh on one side of the room and Elton John on the other, but he had the ability to bring people like that together. But what I wanted to emphasize to you is that Rush wanted to share. And he wanted people to benefit from the great American success that he was, Sean.